Tough conversations can pop up anywhere, whether it's in the sword alley, the pickup cab, or over supper at the kitchen table. And let's be honest, navigating those talks can leave everyone involved feeling frustrated, unheard, or stuck. That's why I created a free guide, Handling Hard Conversations, 3 Steps to Creating Space for Clarity, Connection, and Mutual Respect. In this quick and practical resource, you will learn how to pause and ground yourself before your emotions run wild, validate both yourself and others, building trust, and how to ask honest questions that lead to real connection. These 3 simple steps can help you communicate better and keep your relationships, whether it's with your family, your crew, or your spouse, strong and steady, even on the hard days. Download your free copy today and start moving more smoothly through those hard conversations with confidence. The link is in the show notes, so go grab it now. Here's to drawing good movement.
I'll carry you, you carry me, we'll help each other through it. Come on and see, good movement draws good movement.
Welcome to Good Movement Draws Good Movement, the podcast where farmers, ranchers, and rural folks can grow relationally through awareness, understanding, and effective communication. Hey, it's T. I'm your host, and I, along with my guests, will be covering topics related to drawing good movement. Things like self and social awareness, brain science, positive psychology, extending grace, and so much more. We'll share tools that can help you understand why you are the way you are, why others are the way they are, and how you can use that to step out of self-told lies with grace and compassion to draw good movement in conversations, relationships, and life in rural America. Let's go draw good movement. Welcome back to the Good Movement Draws Good Movement podcast. Today, if you saw the title of this episode, you know that we are going to be talking about farts and flowers. But first, I want to bring a little context to this episode. Back in, 2011. Yes, 2011. Tom and I were in roommate mode. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. We weren't friendly roommates. There was a lot of tension in our house. We had just had our first child, our son, in 2010. And we were struggling, for a lack of a better term. We didn't work together then. We each worked at different places. I was working for a feed yard. He was working for a local ranch to where we lived at the time. But when we came home, it was strictly roommate mode. We were not friendly. We were not husband and wife. We were definitely not anywhere near where we are today. And I've also talked about this on the podcast before. One of the things that got me through or helped get me through was picking one good thing that happened each day and focusing on that. And like I said, we talked about this before on the podcast, way back in episode 5. I came to call it joy journaling because eventually over the years, I started to write down the one good thing. It's not something that I do so much anymore. Back then, though, there was so much that I was aware of that wasn't good that I absolutely needed to bring some awareness to the good things that were happening. And sometimes the good things were as small as I didn't fall off my horse that day, or I had a fountain Pepsi. Small things. We're not talking big things. We're talking very small things. And the reason that did get me through in that moment is because at that point, I was doing one of two things. I was either numbing or I was so immersed in what wasn't going right at that time that I needed to focus on the good. Now, like I said, I came to call it joy journaling, and now I approach it a little bit differently because sometimes when we're so focused on the good things and the gratitude, like we're told a lot to have gratitude, And it's great to have gratitude. It's great to be thankful for what we have, unless it becomes a form of dissociation or bypassing. It becomes a problem, if you will, when we are so focused on the gratitude and the good that we also aren't naming what's hard. When we start to become so focused on the good that we shove down what's hard and we're not willing to acknowledge it as well. Like the pendulum had swung and I was in that space for a while also too, where I was focusing only on the good and shoving all the hard down. And that is the time frame where Tom and I were in a much better place, but he would call me an incurable optimist. And I would like to report that I have been cured of that, or at least I'm working on it. Because what happens when we are so focused on only the good and we're shoving down the bad is that heaviness starts to build up. And when we don't acknowledge it, it settles in our bodies and becomes physical symptoms. It looks like, crazy, ridiculous explosions of anger because we're not recognizing the anger. We can only hold it in so long, things like that. So when we aren't naming the good with the hard, we get out of balance. And in episode 43 of this podcast, we talked about how you can't numb one feeling without numbing them all. And then on the flip side of that, you can't fully feel one feeling without feeling them all. So you can't numb the sadness, anger, fear, etc., without also numbing the joy. And on the flip side of that, you can't feel joy fully unless you are also feeling the sadness, anger, fear fully and letting those feelings inform you the way that they're supposed to and move through your body. So this is where the fart and the flower come in. I actually was introduced to this exercise by my bestie, Sheila. And when I texted her and said, I want to record an episode about the fart and the flower, I said, are you okay with that? She said, yeah, I'm okay with that. I got it from Allie, one of our other friends. So I text Allie and I told her what I was going to do. I have her blessing, but this is something that she does with her kids. I think she does it daily, but if it's not daily, it's quite frequently. And she asks them, what was your fart for the day? So something crappy, disappointing, frustrating, sad. What was your fart for the day? And she even takes it a little farther, and she told me that she tells the kids that they can assign a stink rating. So the stink level of the fart is a funny way, or like a way to encourage the kids to share with you how bad something felt to them. So if it was only mildly stinky, it was only mildly frustrating. If it was like make you want to vom smelly, then obviously it was incredibly frustrating or sad or caused fear, or, you get the idea. But then she also asks, what was your flower for the day? So something good, beautiful, joyful. And it's so simple, like fart and flower. It's simple for kids to answer that, but also it's not just for kids. Like when I was staying with Sheila recovering from my breast amputation, we did it when we sat down with the kids at the supper table, and her and I did it too. It's a great exercise to open up conversation, and it brings that like level of humor, because if you don't love a fart joke, like we can still be friends, but our humor is not the same. I'll just say that. It's great that we're setting this up for our kids, but as adults, it's so good for us too, because we're often conditioned to pretend everything's fine or only look for silver linings. But what naming both the fart and the flower does is builds emotional honesty. It validates our experiences without getting stuck in the cloud of fart, if you will. I can't stop with this analogy, and I'm not sorry. And it strengthens resilience also because it shows that life can be messy or smelly or crappy and good at the same time. Like it's rarely one or the other. It's almost always, I want to say always, but I've learned it's almost always both and. Both smelly and pleasant. So when we ask ourselves this or our spouse or our kids these questions, it really fosters that both and mentality. And we're getting balance that way. We're not just stuck like I was when Tom and I were in roommate mode where I could only focus on the crappy things that were happening or numb myself. We're not just doing that, but we're also not just wearing our rose-colored glasses and not acknowledging that life is hard. We're getting balance. So if this is something that you want to incorporate, an easy way to do it is mealtime. If you guys all gather around the table, ask the fart and flower questions at the dinner table. Or if you have bedtime routine with your kids where you tuck them in, you can ask them at bedtime. If you have that bedtime routine with your spouse where you spend some time connecting at the end of every day, which if you don't, I 10 out of 10 recommend. That's my favorite time of day with Tom when the kids are in bed or, doing their own thing. We've done the bedtime routine with them and he and I just have that alone time to connect. It'd be a great place to incorporate the fart and the flower questions. Or you can do it by yourself with just journaling or talking it out to yourself. The key is to not overcomplicate it. And it also, like I said, has that baked in humor with the whole fart joke aspect of it, which I think goes a long ways to helping us open up. Like it's not so serious and it's more welcoming. The flowers and farts aren't necessarily welcoming, but they're funny. And if you find yourself in a spot where you feel guilty or shameful about acknowledging the farts, that's to be expected because, like I said, oftentimes we're conditioned to only focus on the good and the silver linings and the things. But by not acknowledging those, you're not being completely honest. You're not being emotionally honest. And that, like I said, we hold that stuff in too long and it comes out sideways. It causes us problems with our mental, emotional, physical health, etc. So I just want to encourage you that even though it feels uncomfortable, or maybe it's the other way around, maybe naming the good right now is uncomfortable because when I started, it obviously wasn't the same practice, but when I started focusing on the good things that happen every day, it for dang sure was uncomfortable. And it was even a little bit hard for me in that period of time to come up with something good. That's why it was small. Like I didn't fall off my horse today. Yay. Woo. So if it's hard one way or the other, I just want to encourage you that this is low pressure. It can be small, like start small. Start small. And the discomfort is a sign of growth. You're becoming more honest with yourself. You're not on one side of the pendulum or the other. You're finding that balance when you're acknowledging both. And it's not about wallowing in the fart cloud or sticking around in it or only staying with the flower and smelling the flowers all the time. It's not about that. It's about simple acknowledgement and awareness. And also, naming the fart doesn't take anything away from the flower. And naming the flower does not take anything away from the fart. The fart is as smelly as it's going to be, and the flower is as pleasant as it's going to be. This is just simply about naming and acknowledging. So I want to encourage you to try this. Try this with yourself. Try this with your spouse. Try this with your family. And if you do try it, drop into my DMs and let me know how it's going. Because I would love to hear how it's going. And also, I want to take another opportunity to say thanks to Allie for coming up with this and Sheila for introducing me to this because I do think that naming the fart and the flower is so good because of the balance that it provides. We are not excluding the hard and we are not excluding the good. We have them both right there for us to see and acknowledge. And I think that that is so important to acknowledge both. And like I said, if you try this, let me know. But until next time, draw a good movement. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so grateful for you. If you found value in this episode, I'd love for you to share with others who might also benefit from tuning in. Share by word of mouth, send it in a text, take a screenshot and post it on social media, or share however you prefer. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, draw good movement.